This is Keith Berkelhammer and this is ReefBum TV. Well, today I want to give you a behind the scenes look at my 187 gallon reef tank and fish tank room. So I have the old GoPro on here to get into some of the nooks and crannies. Come on along. Okay, let's start the tour where all the magic happens. This is my computer, my desk, the ReefBum offices, let's call them. And this is where I do all the work in terms of the website, producing the videos and what have you. As you can see, I got a really good view of the aquarium down here. This is all my basement in the house here, so it's really a great space for me. Now let's go behind the aquarium, kind of see the plumbing. And this is a 187 gallon tank, as I mentioned. It's got an external overflow box, so I've got two 1 1/2 inch drain lines as well as two 1 inch return lines. So the plumbing for this was not fun, let me put it that way. I'm not a plumber here, but it took me many hours of cutting, measuring, gluing, so it was pretty intricate, and I've done a lot of this over the years, so I've learned a little bit, but certainly there is a lot of trial and error in terms of measuring and getting it all right. So that's kind of the look behind the aquarium. As you can see underneath here, not sure if it's light enough or not. Let me get a flashlight on this thing. There's no equipment down here underneath the tank. It's all in the room next door, and that's why you've got I've got all these pipes in terms of the PVC pipes going through the wall, and I'll give you a better look at that. But basically I've got nothing back here except for my ballast and some equipment for my recirculation pumps. So let's take a closer look in terms of where the pipes are going through the wall here. Again, give you a good look in terms of all the plumbing and my handiwork in terms of cutting these PVC pipes. So as you can see, all four of these go right through the drywall here, and that was a tough one in terms of getting it all lined up, but again, it took me hours and hours of work. So let's go into the room next door, which is where my fish tank room is, and where these PVC pipes go. So these doors here are for my fish tank room. Let's turn on some lights. See, I've got my frag tank in here, and this is where I've got all the plumbing, the sump, the filtration. So this room right next door to it. Open this up again. Turn a flashlight on here so you can kind of see. This is where those 4 PVC pipes are coming through the wall. And the trick here was to make sure that it was all gravity fed in terms of the 2 drain lines, the 1 1/2 inch drain lines. So I had to do a lot of measuring to make sure that that was the case, that it was going to be fed gravity wise and go right down into the sump. So that's where those PVC drain lines are going into the sump. Anyhow, I'm going to back out of here in this crawl space and give you a brief tour of my sump and what it's all about here. So as I mentioned, again, I'll light up the crawl space in here. This is where my PVC pipes are coming through the wall. So the 2 big 1 1/2 inch pipes are the drain lines that go into the sump. This is actually a drain line for my frag tank, but I'll get to that in a second. And this small, I think that's a 3/4 inch PVC pipe, is part of my water change system, and again I'll explain that in a second. So this is a Royal exclusive Dream box. I've got 10 filter socks on this with different sizes in terms of the micron size, so it's got some great mechanical filtration on this Dream box. That's my Bubble King Double Cone 250 skimmer. Does a great job there in the sump. I've got 2 media reactors, one for GFO and one for carbon. The really cool thing is it's got some valves on there, so I can adjust the flow within the media reactors by just turning, those red valves. 2 return pumps, so I like to have 2 return pumps for redundancy. So this return pump essentially goes through the chiller right here. I don't use the chiller that often. It doesn't come on too often. This being the basement, it stays pretty cool, you know, down here. So the one return's going through the chiller back out to the fish tank. Now this other return is again going out to the fish tank. But what I've done is I've created a nice little system here that allows me to do some water changes real easy, and I've got some ball valves which I, you know, would turn to do that, and I'll explain that in a second. These are the controllers for the pumps, skimmer, and the 2 return pumps. Heater, I've got my Apex Neptune controller, which is vital for me. This is a breakout box. So what I have going on here is I have this float switch hooked up into my skimmer. So if I ever have a overflow in the skimmer cup there, this float switch will get triggered, and the breakout box will essentially tell the controller to turn off my skimmer pump, which is a great backup because you don't want to have the skimmate going into the sump. I also have, see back here, water leak detectors, one there and one there on the floor. So in case I ever get water on the floor, again, the controller will alert me to anything like that. And I've got temperature alarms set up, pH alarms. I highly recommend getting a controller. It's just a great thing to be able to get a text or an email alerting you of any problems in case you're away from the tank or even around the house, and you could just kind of tend to the problem right away. So I run a calcium reactor. That's right here. That's a calcium reactor that I've been using for a very, very long time, and it's served me very well. Replacement CO2 canisters right there. So what else do I got going on? Over here, I've got my RODI unit, which is going into this 55-gallon drum. And what that is doing there is it's storing the RODI water that I use for making fresh salt water, and it's also used for top off. So I have a SpectraPure top off device right down here. Hopefully you can see that. And what that is doing is it's drawing from the 55-gallon drum. It's going into this calc reactor. Since I have a calcium reactor, that calcium reactor does tend to, you know, bring the pH down. So the calc reactor with the kalkwasser inside and that pump that stirs it every now and then is great to boost up the pH. So I have a device in the sump right here that can detect. You're not going to be able to see it. I'm not going to take that lid off. Tell you when the water level is getting too low, and it brings water from that 55-gallon drum. Now what I also have, and these are connected, I have a pump in that 55-gallon RODI drum, and this is my saltwater drum, which has my makeup water. So I've got, you know, when I need water, I pump it from that drum to this drum, and I got it all plumbed underneath the sink there to make it look nice and you know, clean. So, but I also have another pump in here, and I've got some valves. So when I want to pump water into my sump, I switch a couple of valves around. Right now, these valves are set to where the water can, you know, circulate within the drum. So it's constantly, you know, I've got a current going on there where it's mixing. But if I want to pump it into my sump for a water change, I turn those couple of valves, and it's going to go through this pipe underneath the bench here, open up that valve and into the sump. And when I'm pumping water out, all I do is I turn this valve, and that'll prevent it from going to the display tank. Obviously I shut the whole system down, but then when I turn that valve, the water's going to go up to this PVC pipe all along the ceiling right here. This is from my Frag tank. Don't have a lot of frags in it right now, but that's going to change real soon. Anyway, you know, when I do a water change, I'll close that blue valve off, open up the red valve up there, which goes up here. I open up this red valve, and that allows me to pump out the old water into the slop sink. So, you know, again, this is a really easy to use water change system, and it literally can take me 10 minutes to do a 30-gallon water change if I want to. So I like to have it all set up that way where it makes it just easy to do. So the easier it is, the less of a hassle it becomes. What else do I have going on here? You know, that's all my electrical. It looks pretty pretty much like spaghetti wire right there. It looks sloppy, but it really does work very well. That's my bench with all my supplies, and again, that doesn't look so neat, but I know where everything is, so it works for me. And what else do I got going on? Here's the frag tank. So this is all plumbed in to my system, and as I mentioned, I've got you know, this pipe is actually coming from one of my return pumps from the Sump. Goes underneath here, I don't know if you can see that, into the frag tank. So that's the return line, and then my overflow box. I don't have a lot of room here underneath that between the bench, so I've got a 90-degree elbow, and that again has to be gravity fed to go down into the sump. So that flows right down into the sump, and I've got everything all together in one nice neat little system, all connected, and it's great. So anyway, that is the dime tour. I might have missed something, so if you want to go to my website, reefbum.com, go to the setup section to get all the details and all the equipment I use, and a lot of videos and photos as well, so you can get a much closer look. So anyway, many thanks for watching, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be alerted to new videos on my YouTube channel.